Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and it is my enormous pleasure to welcome a jazz icon to the Culture Crawl, which we don't get very often. Nneena, most of our people that we interview on this show tend to be local musicians and theater people and writers and things like that. So getting to talk to Nneena Freelon is a especially big treat for me. Welcome. It's so nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be on Culture Crawl. It's good. It feels so good.
We have a lot of different projects to talk about. Of course, Nneena is no stranger to our audience. As I said, iconic jazz vocalist who's been active for many years and award-winning releases, and a release that we hope may win some awards, but we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But we're going to talk about, hopefully dive into many of your current projects, but we're also here specifically to talk about your book, which is coming out, called Beneath the Skin of Sorrow. And this has its origins, of course, you can figure this out from the title. And anybody who listened to Beneath the Skin, the record from earlier this year, knows that it is all about processing grief and learning to move on. You lost your husband of 40 years, Phil, some years ago, and that was pretty much at the same time you lost your sister as well. So this is about your journey. Where would you like to start in talking about how these experiences, which are the most devastating that any of us can imagine, have shaped your art?
Wow. Thank you for that awesome question. I am a woman and a wife and a grandmother, and the book and my record Beneath the Skin both emerged from the same kind of creative breath. I'm not writing or making music from a different space than my experience. And so as a jazz musician, I actually found that the tools were the most sustainable for me, the most accessible, were the things that I learned on the bandstand. And who knew that grief would call upon me to change the key, to modulate, to slow the tempo, to imagine a different context for my life. And so these things that I learned really on the bandstand are what have kind of sustained me in this sojourn with sorrow. And I had no idea. I thought my professional life and my personal life were two different places and that they didn't merge. And I'm a person of faith, but honestly, faith was not enough in this situation. Being strong, boy, that was definitely not enough. It was the ability to improvise, Dennis. It was those strong tools that I learned on the bandstand to improvise, to listen deeply with compassion and patience. Those things are what the book is. And those things are what my recording Beneath the Skin is. All original music, with the exception of one tune, Oh Susanna, written from the pages of my life. And I have never done that before. I've done an original tune here or there, but never an entire project of all original tunes. And so, I don't know, I just feel like that authentic placing of my story in my art, in my album, in my book is really what it's all about.
Tell me a little bit about Phil. You were married for 40 years. You were a real power couple. He was the director of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. You lost him to ALS. You two had a big public life and persona, but tell me just a little about the Phil that you knew.
Wow, thank you for asking. Sometimes when we know someone's grieving, we think, let's not bring that up. It might make you sad. But I think most of us want to hear our beloved, whether it's our child or our mother or our husband or our wife, we want to hear the name. We want to hear it mentioned. So thank you for that. Phil was a family man. He was the architect of record of the National Museum of the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture. Yet, he considered his family his greatest design production. We have 3 kids, 6 grandkids, and he was truly a family-oriented person. He was kind, I should say is kind, very focused, funny, loved music, loved took great pride in my accomplishments in the world, as I did of his accomplishments. But when we say power couple, there might be room for the thought of, gee, maybe they were in competition with each other. Maybe it was like that. We had a life and a marriage philosophy that everything that any one of us brought to the world, from the world, was brought home to the hearth, and it belonged to us. So if I got a Grammy nomination, he was like, we got a Grammy nomination. If he won an AIA Design Award, I was like, we're getting a design award, look at us. And so it was very complimentary. I don't know if that's unusual or different, but for us, it worked. It really worked. And I miss that companionship, somebody who laughs at my corny jokes, and someone who was just truly a life partner.
And your sister, Debbie, tell me a little bit about her.
Dobby. She was my little sister, 18 months younger. She was a physician. She was a hospice and palliative care physician. So she helped families and patients when dying was near, hospice patients. And her amazing life skill to me was listening. She was a listener. She listened for what was not said. She listened for what was inferred. And sometimes when your options are few and you might not get better, people want to feed you a bunch of stuff. You can try this, or you could try that. And you may spend your last moments on earth chasing a dream, and it is exhausting. She encouraged patients to she asked the question, what's important to you now? Because 6 months ago, you might have had a different answer. But if you keep asking the question, the answers will change. It might be, I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be alone. I want to die at home. These kinds of things, sometimes you can't say to your family because they're saying, fight, keep fighting. And sometimes that's appropriate. Other times, when your energy is limited, you might just want to rest and life review and say those things to those you love while you have the breath to do it. And she was that kind of person. When her dying time was near, I was privileged to be that for her, to continually ask the question, what's important to you now? She had lung cancer. And lung cancer is one of those diseases that often is diagnosed late. So by the time we found out, it was pretty far along. But I was privileged, and of course, being a doctor, she knew too much, but I was privileged to hold her hand, to sing to her, to rub her brow, and to let her know it was gonna be okay. Maybe not in the way of you'll be healed and life will go back to normal, but it's gonna be okay. And so it's not something I would have planned or desired, especially on the heels of the loss of my husband, but I was glad I could be there for her.
And those watching the video saw your dog get up and stretch and move around in the background just a little bit, which reminded me that as if all of this wasn't enough, you also lost your beloved dog about the same time. Life just had to keep punching and punching you.
It's true. Basie, Phil and I love this little, they call them rescue animals, but I think he rescued us. And he was Phil's accompaniment during the illness. He was a source of comfort and love, unconditional love. And when he died, 1 month to the day after Phil passed, it seemed like an extraordinary pile of losses all in one because he was like my buddy. And the vet told me that this is very common. When a dog's person dies, it's very common that the dog will pass in short order. It's almost as if their job has ended and they wink off. They're like, you know what? My work here is done. I'm out of here. So my feeling is if heaven doesn't contain animals, I don't want to go because I want to see all my favorite animal friends across that rainbow bridge. And those who have pets know what I'm talking about. They hold a special place in your heart.
That's a
And
pretty good definition of heaven, the place where you go to meet all your pets again.
get a little cuddle, rub that little head, romp through the fields of gold, all the things. So
So
yeah,
it certainly
yeah.
can't come as any surprise that you have been processing and continue to process all of this in all the different myriad ways that everybody does. And in your case, you have the album, you've been working on the book. The album was called Beneath the Skin. The book is called Beneath the Skin of Sorrow. And I'm curious that you did a little bit of differentiation between the titles of those two works. Was that on purpose?
Yes, I think they're joined at the hip with part of the title. The book delves into my processing, as you said, of sorrow, including COVID, which after all of my personal stuff happened, the world shut down.
Because it was 2019 when you
Right.
lost everybody, so COVID came along just right after.
Just right after that. And so then there's this sort of universal grief that I think, honestly, we're still processing, honestly. So the book is, again, as I said, written from the perspective of a jazz woman. So it's in 4 containers, and the containers are less chapters and more spaces where I place poems and meditations and short stories and all of these recipes too, because I was such a cooking is one of my love languages, so recipes form a part of my grieving as well. But they're formed in 4 containers, 4 bowls, if you will. The first one is around midnight, the early part of grief when you are just in a haze. And then the next container is stolen moments, when you realize your life is irrevocably changed. It's just will never be the same. And moments start appearing to you where your beloved is not there. And it kind of wigs you out a little bit. The third one is the love supreme, where little bits of joy, little bits of memory, little bits of things bring gratitude for what you had with this person. And then the fourth container is time traveler, which is more of a creative fiction imagining of what the mystery of life to death might be. So those 4 containers, the book can be read sequentially or not. It's the kind of book you can flip to any page and experience what's there. And if it resonates, great. And if not, you can keep it moving. I wanted the book to be a companion for people who are moving through grief, no matter what it is. Even if it's not a death, losing your job is a grief. Losing your health is a grief. Aging is a grief. So it doesn't have to be grief centered in the loss of life. It can be any grief that accompanies a radical change where you have to reorient yourself. And that's human, right? I also wanted the book to be, it's my experience, but I pray that anybody, because grief is ever present, nobody gets out of here without some of it. It's my experience, but I hope it encourages people to improvise, to dance with, to move with their own grief in the way that makes sense to them. It's not a how-to book. I don't have a therapeutic background. I can only speak to what a jazz woman has, how she has engaged her grief.
The names of your containers, your movements is also another way it's referred to it, are so familiar to anybody that knows jazz at all. Around Midnight, Stolen Moments, A Love Supreme. But I was taken by the fact that when I encountered those in the book, it caused me to think about those songs and those titles in particular in a completely different way than I ever had before, from the palette of these are ways that we deal with grief. And of course, Time Traveler, that's one of your songs. And
Yes.
I did pick the phrase out, music bends time.
Ooh, thank you. Thank you so much. And it does. Anyone who loves music knows that you can enter a space and time ceases to have the same kind of meaning. Or that tune that you remember from when you were in high school and it plays on the radio and immediately you go right back to that, like it or not, space of what the song embodies for you. So music in so many ways is magic. It's mysterious, it's powerful, and has the capacity to soothe the parts of us that hurt, to energize us so that we can dance, to invite memory, all of these things. Music does this.
Did music help you in your coming to grips with grief and the healing process? You know, when music is also your job, you approach it way differently
True.
than we do as a consumer. So I guess what I'm asking is, were you able to separate that out and use music as a healer, as a consumer, as a listener, as an appreciator, in addition to using it as a tool in your work?
Absolutely. I went to places of I needed solace. I needed sometimes help to sleep. And because sleeping was not available to me for a long time. So I had to choose carefully those tunes that didn't excite the critical part of my brain. Because there's some music's like, oh, what? That not so much. Classical music became a real friend to me at that time. Certain artists, tone, the tone got into my heart and swirled around and made me calm down, brought the blood pressure down, brought the thought level down. But it was mostly, I have to say, instrumental music. Because whether it was jazz or whatever it was, gospel music, there's something about, maybe because I'm a singer, vocal music wasn't as helpful for me because I think it woke up a part of me that was the singer, and the singer needed to rest, and the singer needed to go somewhere and sit down. So I chose music that was instrumental to wrap around my sorrow.
Now, you did an album, you've got the book. You also started a podcast.
Yes,
Because
yes.
it's 2025, everybody does. Everybody has a podcast.
Everybody had a podcast. It was the thing all the kids were doing. And my podcast is a little bit different. It's a musically supported narrative podcast. So you won't hear guests so much. It's storytelling, really, supported by music with my improvisational friend, Andrew Berenson. And it also was a way for me to process my grief and hopefully help others process theirs. So yeah, I am working on season 3 now. It's hard because I've got this and that and that and the other, but we are going to move to a more video format because apparently audio only is not what the kids are doing anymore. The kids are doing video. Okay, so I got to jump on that bandwagon.
Gotta have something that goes on TikTok.
I guess.
Beneath the Skin of Sorrow is the book. Beneath the Skin is the album from earlier this year. Great Grief is the podcast. And Beneath the Skin is up for consideration for Grammy.
Yes. So I have 7 Grammy nominations, and I get this question all the time. Don't you feel some kind of way about having 7 nominations and not a win? Absolutely not. Nominate me again. I would love to be able to say 8. And if I have to say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I can say that too. It's all good. This process right here, where people are voting for the 5 best whatevers in whatever category, to me, this is the thick of the Grammy process. Because you get a chance to look at your peers and say, what are the 5 that I really think are outstanding? So I'm just grateful for this period of time. I'm grateful to be a singer. I'm grateful to still have a song to sing, because there truly was a time when I wondered, am I going to be able to sing? Is there anything else for me to say? And when I looked deep within, up came these 2 projects. There will be other songs and records and projects in the future. But for me, the past 3 years required that I attend to these pieces of art. There was nothing I could do beyond this for now. I had to get this baby out of the way before I could look at whatever else is on the horizon.
These are all amazing projects, and I've really enjoyed having the chance to dig into some, in addition to just being able to appreciate your music as I have and as we all have over the years. The album up for a Grammy nomination is Beneath the Skin. Beneath the Skin of Sorrow is the book, coming soon and available on all the normal platforms. The Great Grief Podcast, Season 3, is coming. I'm sure that we can find out more about all of these on the usual outlets, but also your website, Nneena.com.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Nneena Freelon, thank you so much for taking the time. It's truly an honor to speak with you, and I hope that we get to see you again in Iowa sometime soon.
I'm looking forward to that.
You can hear The Culture Crawl live on the radio most weekdays at 10:30, on demand at kcck.org/culture, or subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Watch our videos on the KCCK Facebook and YouTube channels. Our producer is Lydia Kilgore. The Culture Crawl theme is composed by Vivian Shanley. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.